Howdy guys, it's Joe, and here is one of the best Korean Genjis you can find. I'm not going to pronounce his name because I will be roasted again, because I am every single time I say anyone's name, but I think his gameplay is really good. I think he's really good at the game. And quite aggro, which a lot of people like to see personally. So there you go. That's a smart idea with him. Now today I'm going to be telling you guys a ton of tips. I watched this all the way through. I'm going to be trying to tell you everything good that I found. And hopefully that'll help you out just a little bit as far as playing Genji goes and as far as everything. So I just have a ton of tips that I'll lay out for you guys. And of course the gameplay in the background is where they all came from, so you can try to connect them the best you possibly can as well. So I feel like this is the best way for me to try to inform you guys as quickly as possible. Whatever. Let's just get started though. Don't want to waste any more time. So a thing that I saw him do straight at the beginning was jumping. Well, the first thing I saw was actually him duo queuing with another support / flanker. I feel like that's a very good idea with Genji, and probably the best person to duo queue with. Of course, you can duo queue with a Winston, which I feel like is a great idea as well, but Lucio or, Tracer, those are probably your best people to queue with because you can call out where you want to go, and overall you can just get a lot of synergy between those characters. They naturally work really great together, so try to do that if you can. The second thing, as we saw in the beginning, he's not afraid to go off stage. I feel like a lot of people are really kind of spooked to go off stage. Here we see an amazing ult, jumping straight to the back line, focusing on that guy, getting that guy, there we go. Pretty nice. But I feel like a lot of Genjis are afraid to kind of jump off stage and don't realize that if you save your double jump, you can actually go off of it, climb back up, shift up, try to kill people. Yeah, it's a kind of cool thing we saw him, just going off stage and not being way too afraid. And you saw that it maybe took a little bit of time to get the kill, but it was worth it to try to get that support. And you should, again, generally focus supports. That's the thing we see him do quite often. I see some Genjis focusing on DPS, but it seems like support is the one that mainly this guy focuses on, and since he's so good, I would say that it's probably a good idea to actually try to do that. Like if he finds two people off in the back line, he'll go for the support first, mainly because Genji doesn't really have enough burst to burst through a support healing somebody else. But if you take out the support first and then you go after the other person, that can work pretty well. Another thing I want to mention is that every single time he fires, almost every single time if you look, pretty much always melees, no matter who he's fighting. If it's a Winston, if it's a Deva, whatever, he'll shoot, and if he's close enough, he'll melee them. A little bit weird, but yeah, it's something that I might want to, try to add to my own gameplay. It seems like it works pretty well, and it gets out an extra 40 damage, whenever. A lot of the times what you want to do is shoot them, shift them, melee, and get out, and yeah, that works pretty well, and it's actually quite safe. As far as some other stuff, we see him just jumping in right here. Of course, he actually does deal damage to Winston. You can deal a decent amount of damage with your right click, going straight to his head. I feel like people kind of underestimate that because they know that in a 1v1, of course, Winston does counter you. But if it's a team fight, you can actually deal a lot of damage to Winston. Charge up your ult quickly. That's the thing you might want to remember about him. Now, something completely different you might want to look at. Look at his mouse pad on the right of the screen. See how huge that thing is. I'm going to tell you guys again and again, a good mouse pad is very important. My mouse pad itself, a little bit too small, but as you can see right here, yeah, it's giant. Now, you don't necessarily need one as big as that, but if you just have a normal small mouse pad, it's probably too small. If you're playing someone like Genji, you need a lot of different aim just with your mouse, and you can see that if you want, a lot of mobility and a lot of movement, you're either going to have to use a ton of swipes with your hand or one very big swipe, because you probably only want about 5 cents, 800 DPI, and as you see right here, just a ton of, big swipes seem to work pretty well. So yeah, if you can get a bigger mouse pad, I feel like that can be a thing that can actually make so you can win a few more games, and mainly just so that you're a lot more accurate, as it can let you go on a lower sensitivity, which lets you play quite a bit more accurately, and I feel like that's how he hits so many shots so greatly. Now to something else, I'd like to point out how he plays against Deva. I feel like a lot of Genjis have huge problems against Deva, and while Deva does kill a player quite a few times, we see that with his mobility, see him die right there, but later on we see with his mobility, he can overall generally not take away too much damage from her, take a lot of, time away from her, and take a lot of distraction time, I guess, for her. And right here even, we see with his jumping and going around and going straight into her, you can often waste a lot of her defense matrix and either make so that she has to look too high or too low, and overall use up a lot of Deva and a lot of her potential, which can actually help you win the game pretty much single-handedly because Deva is such a strong pick right now. That's definitely something you should probably be trying to focus on, because if you can't happen to make the Deva waste all of her crap trying to shoot you or trying to defense matrix you, the rest of your team can either just ignore her and she won't be doing much, or deal a lot of damage to her as she's looking upwards. Right here, it's a great idea, just staying on high ground, something that a lot of other characters can't get to. This is high on high ground, waiting behind the enemies, trying to jump on whoever the heck they can. That was a good idea, blocking. You should actually be pretty liberal with your use of your E. I feel like a lot of people save that for way too long. But yeah, as well, a lot of people save their shift for way too long. We saw right there, shifts in, gets the Lucio, shifts immediately out to better positioning. Yeah, I don't know why, but a lot of people seem to think that they should save all these abilities, and I guess it does make sense because you're afraid that you might need to use it later, but I'd say it's better to use it now, stay alive, get to that good positioning, wait for the cooldown, then just have it up and not have any effect off of it. As well, the cooldowns really aren't way too long, so yeah. Alright, there we see him getting a lot of free damage on the Winston. It does actually lead to a kill on the Winston. I want you guys to remember that, again, you can actually deal damage to other characters than just DPS. People focus so often just on hitting the DPS, and that's not always what you have to do. Of course, it can be an okay thing to do, but if you can't happen to get the tanks just because they're all in the open by themselves, there's no reason to not. Of course, it charges your ult very quickly, as he almost already has his ult after using it just a little bit ago. So yeah, that's a smart idea. Of course, poking as much as you can as well. A lot of people are kind of like afraid that their accuracy will go down. I know that I guess the SR system could punish you for spamming shurikens, but as far as actually in-game, there's no negative to spamming shurikens. It just gives you more of a chance to get damage on the enemies, more of a chance to get picks, and more of a chance to charge your ult. So just go for it. I mean, I guess the SR system might hurt you a bit for it, but makes sense. Right there we saw something great, which is that he always also fights, I guess completely differently, he always fights next to health packs. And that's something you should be trying to do too. If you are ulting and fighting next to a health pack, it'll make so that you can shift into it before anyone else can. You can also quite often bait people into walking next to the health pack and then taking them down before they can do anything. Those two things alone, I think, are good reason to fight next to those. As well, if you have a Sombra, you can try to get both of those together. That can be a pretty cool idea. Some more stuff, I guess, about this guy, though, is that he continuously walks on walls, climbs, jumps all over the place, makes himself so that it's really high, so that it's really low, and makes it really kind of confusing where he's going. Even right now, we can see that he's just jumping all over the place, making it hard to hit him. Pretty much because you can. You should be doing this with Genji because it makes it that you're a lot harder to hit, it makes it that you can get a lot more damage, and so overall, you might look a little bit weird, but you're going to be a lot more safe. Right, there was some random jank just blocking all that stuff. Good job. But yeah, you should be putting more effort into not hiding yourself. You should be putting more effort into just staying there and, makes it so that you're a lot harder to hit. As well, something that we see that's pretty funny is that he actually does hide in foliage a little bit. So around these back edges, you see that happen a little bit later, and right there. You can actually hide for a while with Genji and do okay. Right here, I think we see it. He walks around, uses mobility, they can't really see him. He just sits here and nobody finds him. You want to remember, you got some good sneaks and you got some really good mobility to get into those great positions to hide. And of course, once you hide, it'll give you pretty much free reign on their backline. If they don't know that you're there, that's your best situation. Now, I guess some other stuff to say before we get closing is the fact that whenever he finds anybody below half health, he almost always right-click, shift, melees them. Or I guess alt-fire, swift strike, melees them, if you want to use general terms. On anyone below half HP to try to take them out, and on anyone above half HP, most of the time he just tries to poke them to about half HP, and then kills them from there. Of course, if he has his ult up, he can do whatever the heck he wants. But in most situations, I'm going to say that's usually what he tries to focus on, as far as getting kills. And that's something you might want to remind yourself about doing. Genji can, of course, 0 to death people, but I feel like he can much more easily, like, 3-force to death people very safely, while 0 deathing in the enemy backline can be kind of unsafe, because you don't always have your shift straight up, or I guess your swift strike straight up. So, something you kind of want to remember about playing him. Right here, does he get taken out? Heck no, he blocks that, shoots it straight at him. Nice. Some final stuff I want to go about, though, before we end this off, is the fact that he always jumps straight up in people's faces and jumps straight above them, and it makes it super hard to hit him. If you jump right in front of people's faces, and more than that, jump behind people both ways over and over again, all over the place, swift striking through them, it can become extremely hard to do any damage to the Genji player. Which a lot of times you don't really realize when you're playing as Genji, but when you're against him, yeah, it can be annoying to deal with, but it's something that you probably should put an effort to try to learn how to do. Of course, some other stuff, he uses instant double jumps and instant double shifts to gain positioning after he gets a kill. Wastes his ult right here because why the heck not? He usually also waits when there's nothing else going on in a good position instead of just randomly running around next to his team. He waits like behind the enemy team or, around corner, something like that. Tries to get high ground. That's a pretty good idea as well. Yeah, some other stuff. I guess he always tries to at least shoot the opponent once before ulting. That's a pretty cool habit to do, I guess. And yeah, he isn't afraid to shift into good positions and then wait for kills from there. A lot of Genji just kind of shift only to get kills. But a lot of times this guy will shift and he'll just play without a shift for a few seconds and then use it to finally finish off the kill after he gets some poke. And he cares a lot more about having a good position than simply just, you know, having a little bit of extra damage immediately on your shift. So those are probably all the things I can really tell you about this guy. Overall, plays really well, and I hope that you learned a little bit about Genji from this video. I'm trying to give you as many tips as humanly possible. If you'd like to see some more future tips in the future video, make sure to press that subscribe button, make sure to press that like button, and comment down below if you learned dang near anything. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a wonderful day.